Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to our speaker session on Saturdays. Well, today we have Mr. Todd Alexander, and he is a entrepreneur. He's a recovery coach, a poet, an author, and a business development strategist. And Mr. Todd overcame addiction by embracing his unique identity, finding community support, and transforming from a mindset of victimhood to one of victory. And Mr. Todd is currently residing in Southern Florida, my home state as well. So thank you very much, Mr. Todd, for giving us your time and come and share your story, your personal story.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Yes. And my name is Hung, and I will be the host for today. First, I would like to ask if you can start by telling us a little bit about yourself.
Certainly. So I am, as Hung mentioned, Todd Alexander. The B more is because I was from Baltimore, and then as my journey continued, I just continued to use it as a nickname because I got to be more grateful, be more loving, be more kind, be more selfless, be more giving, be more generous. And so it just stuck. And so anyway, I am a grateful, recovered addict. And the reason I introduced myself as a grateful, recovering addict, as opposed to, hi, I'm Todd and I'm an addict, is because it gives me a better identity to live up to. And the reason for the recovering and recovered is because I am recovered from the compulsion to use. I am recovered from the mental obsession to use. And I am still recovering from my self-centeredness. Yes, that's what I'm recovering from. I'm still recovering from my self-centeredness, from the spiritual part of my dilemma. So I've been in recovery. My clean date is December 5th, 1988. So I've been doing this for more than over half of my life. And I wouldn't have it any other way. God has blessed me with an amazing life and recovery, and the life that I have today is God's gift to me, and what I do with that gift is my gift back to Him. So my journey, in the questions that I answered yesterday, it asked, what I struggled with when I first became part of my recovery. And what I reflected on after I answered the questions was that when I first got clean, I didn't want to be who I was. I didn't want to be by myself. I couldn't live in my own skin. And I didn't want to be by myself, so I was around other people all the time. And at the same time, I was afraid of people, and I was not a great social butterfly as I am today. So I struggled with the showing up all the time for myself and for other people. Excuse me. I'm a little nervous. Just let me say that. I don't know why I'm nervous. I speak for a living, but I just want to get that out of the way so that maybe that nervousness can just disappear, and I can communicate on a better level.
That's okay. I also facilitate groups, and I create my session like a very safe very open, free flowing, open mic. So you shouldn't be nervous. There's nothing to nervous about.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it. So, it's been quite a journey. I remember that when I was struggling with my addiction, I thought somehow, I don't know, I was under the illusion that I was having a great time, that I wasn't, that I was just having a party, and that it was just what you did. I thought everybody lived the way I did. I wasn't, I didn't know that I was a small minority of the world. And so I was under an illusion. I lived in an illusionary state. And when I came into recovery, I discovered that that was not the case, that, the majority of the world does not live in the delusion that I lived in. And I suffered from a distorted thought process. That's what I discovered. I suffered from a distorted thought process that kept me sick. It kept me unaware of reality. It got worse over time. And what they told me was that it would eventually kill me. And so I finally had to surrender to the fact that I didn't know what was good for me, and I didn't know how to run my life, and I didn't know what I didn't know, which was a lot. And still today, I discover things that I didn't know when I learned, right? And so I came in and I struggled, but I also was passionate about it. I was driven to change my life on this last acceptance of my addiction. Now, that wasn't the way it was when I first came in. When I first came in, I was 18 years old, and I had taken enough chemicals to kill someone, or to kill myself. I wasn't intending to kill myself, but I woke up 3 days after being in a coma, and I woke up in a vegetable state. The lights weren't on and nobody was home. And my mother, who I tortured the most, I imagine, she had to teach me how to feed myself again, how to talk, how to walk, how to function as a human being. And one would think, wow, thank God you stopped using after that. But that was just the first of many situations like that. I was when I say the lights were off and nobody was home, I had zero personality. I was a blank slate. And people can't even imagine that, because I'm Mr. Personality today. But and so I struggled, and they told me that I was an addict, and I didn't believe I was an addict. I didn't have any interest in being an addict. I didn't want to be an addict. And so I wasn't an addict. I had just used too many chemicals, overdosed, and went into a coma for 3 days and woke up a vegetable. That's normal, right? It's not normal. It's not normal at all. But the one thing that my mother told me was that when I was in the hospital, the doctors had accepted that I was dead. And she was praying over me and just begging God to save her son. And God said, okay. He said, okay. And he gave me another shot at life. And then this was back in 1986, I believe. No, 84. the timeline is a little confused because I was suffering from, my delusional thought processes. Anyway, so then I went back and started using again, and then came back into recovery, went back and forth. And, with overdoses, totaled cars, treatment centers, and I just couldn't grasp it. I couldn't get the concept that I was the problem, and so on December 5th, 1988, I was physically dying again, and I just asked God. Something inside of me said, "God, please help me. I want to live. I don't want to die." And I believe that He said, "Okay," again. And He gave me one last shot at life. And I said, I will do everything I can with this gift. And I have. I have done everything I can to give it away and help other people to overcome their dilemma, their addiction, their pain and suffering. I have a love for people. I hate to see people suffer. And I know that, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. I ask many of my clients, I say, so when a snake bites you, what kills you? And some of them, it takes them a moment, but others, everybody gets it eventually, and it's the poison. It's not the occurrence or the snake bite that kills us. It's the poison. And the poison that I'm talking about is the poison that lives between my ears. The stories I tell myself that keep me sick, unaware of reality, that get progressively worse and will eventually kill me. But my journey has been amazing. I mean, I've had such an adventure over the past 35 years. I have been to every state in the United States except for 3. So I haven't been to every state. I've been to most states except for 3. I haven't been to Montana, North Dakota, or Wyoming. But every other state, God has seen fit to, let me journey there and experience the blessings that, our country offers. I've been able to influence and inspire and impact and improve the quality of lives all over the world. When COVID happened, Zoom, I got to go to South Africa, and I went to Australia, and I went to England, and I went to Norway, and it's amazing, how that happened. I've never gotten on a plane and gone to those places. I just got on Zoom, and it was a blessing for sure, because I got to inspire people all over the world. Along my journey, I guess it was 2008. So I had been clean for 20 years at that point. Yeah, 20 years at that point. I was in a funk. I was really not doing well, and I heard on the radio that I could go to a Tony Robbins event, and I had listened to Tony's tapes. If anybody knows what CD or cassette tapes are, Hung, you look a little young to know what those are. Maybe you do. But so I listened to his tapes and I read his book, and a couple things I extracted that helped me to continue on my path were, number one was CANI, constant and never ending improvement. And I was at a meeting this morning and I shared, that we can't only chop wood. Okay. We have to stop and sharpen the saw, because, unless we're always looking different ways, better ways to be a better version of myself, I'm complacent, and complacency is not a good place for me to live. So, and then another golden nugget that I extracted was that people will do more to avoid pain than they will to gain pleasure. And that was, I'm like, well, okay, it makes sense. And when I delved into it, I've discovered that it's absolutely true that, I could paint a beautiful picture of what recovery could do for somebody, the beautiful life they could have their family back. They could keep their career. They could, drive any type of vehicle they want. They can live in the big, beautiful house. They can have all the toys that, you can accumulate. And they still wouldn't do anything to get there. The pain is what is the motivator. The pain, because they will do more to avoid the pain than they will to gain the pleasure. And I told Larissa what another gold nugget was yesterday. I forget what I told her, because I have so many toolboxes today that have so many tools in them that sometimes it's challenging to know which toolbox to open up. But fortunately, I managed to put one foot in front of the other and just show up, and just doing that sometimes is a true blessing. So when I fast forwarding, I had 30 years clean, and I was at another Tony Robbins event. I was at his Date with Destiny, and he was celebrating, when I was celebrating my 30 years, he was celebrating his 30 years. It was his 30-year anniversary of that event. And at that point, I wrote down 30 years and 30 lessons that I've learned. So I'm going to share all of those with you now. No, I'm kidding. That would take forever. I'm just kidding. But I would like to share just a couple of them. And one of them, number one, was to know thyself. Because unless I know who I am, I can't improve. I can't even know that I want to improve. I can't even know that I need to improve. So I need to know myself. And then number two is to thine own self be true. And to know, when I'm not being the best version of myself. And to know when I'm allowing somebody to cross my boundaries, and to know when I'm crossing other people's boundaries. And my number three lesson is a lesson that my father taught me when I was just a kid. And that was always pay attention. And always pay attention has served me in my life, my whole journey, because it's allowed me to have a great sensory acuity, to know when somebody's in pain, or to serve other people. Everything I do today is in the interest of serving other people, becoming the best version of me, competing with only me. I don't compete with other people today, which is a freedom. That's freedom. Anyway, it really is. It's so freeing to know that I don't have to be better than you, or that I'm not as good as you. And then my lesson number 4 is never give up, which I used to have a vanity tag. The only vanity tag I've ever had said NVRGVUP. And I had that on my car for years, and we drove all over the country with that, inspiring people. I would tell my former wife, I would tell her that we how many lives we've changed this week? And she's like, what are you talking about? And I said, the guy that was sitting behind us, driving behind us, and he was ready to throw in the towel on his marriage or his business, or maybe his life. And he was looking for a sign, and our tag was the sign that he was looking for, to never give up. And then always go the extra mile is another lesson that I learned. Always, when somebody asks you to go 1 mile with them, go 2. Always give 110%. And if you do that, and people will step up and notice, when you are just a giver, a true giver. And here's a funny lesson that I learned. I was sitting in a meeting one time, and when and I heard this for years, when you point a finger at somebody, okay, you have 3 pointing back at you. one day I'm sitting in a meeting and I pointed my finger at somebody and I saw the three fingers pointing back at me. And I was like, oh my God, that's what they're talking about. Okay. So don't be judgmental. And that, what else? Let's see. How long do I have? About 6 minutes, maybe. Let me share. Okay, so this is how I usually start off my thought. I would love to. Hold on one moment. Let me see. So in the interest of being a giver, all right, and recognizing that that's what we're here for. We're here to give. There's a story that I heard years ago, and this is how I usually start off my talk. Maybe I should have started. Can we start over? No, I'm kidding. But so there's this archaeologist, and he's traveling all over the world, and he's in Africa, and he's going from village to village, and he comes upon this one village, and this village has this huge community of children, and he just falls in love with these children, and so he meets with them every day, and he teaches them different lessons, and he's getting ready to leave. He's been there for like 2 weeks, and he's getting ready to leave the village, and he calls the children around, and he puts a big basket of fruit, toys, and candies up by the tree away from where they meet. They meet down by the lake. And he said, okay, children, he says, today's my last day. He says, I have a surprise for you. He said, you see the tree over there? And they all look and they say, yeah. And he said, well, when I count to 3, I want you to run over, and whoever gets to the basket first can have it for them, for themselves. And so they said, okay. And they got all excited, and he counted 1, 2, 3. And all the children grabbed hands and ran over to the basket together. And they all sat down and they grabbed the basket. And he comes over and he said to them, why did you do it like that? And they said, well, how could one of us be happy when the rest of us are all sad? That's first. And secondly, then she said, Ubuntu. And he's like, Ubuntu? What does Ubuntu mean? And Ubuntu means I am because we are. And I, Todd Alexander, am because we are. I shared in my answers to the questions that illness begins with I, and wellness begins with we. And, without a community of people to support me in my journey, and all the friends that I've made, and all the contacts that I've the network of people that I have in my life, I wouldn't be who I am today. Without the lessons that I've learned, and the meetings I've gone to, and the seminars I've attended, and all of the knowledge and wisdom that I've absorbed and applied in my life, I wouldn't be here today. And so I'm a grateful person today. I'm extremely grateful. I'm grateful for the blessings. I'm grateful for my journey. I'm grateful for my life. I truly feel abundantly blessed. And when people ask me, how are you? I say, oh, I'm humbly great. I'm highly favored, abundantly blessed, infinitely successful, and humbly grateful. And the infinitely successful I added in recently because a friend of mine pointed out that, if I'm going to be successful, how successful do I want to be? And I'm like, well, infinitely. And so they said, well, add that into your how you are. And so I did. And, it gives me a great identity to live up to once again. Hung mentioned that, I have a new identity, and I truly do. I mean, people that knew me before, I can walk into a room where they're at. They don't, I look nothing like I did. I've completely transformed. A dear friend of mine wrote a book, and he said that change is inevitable. Change is inevitable. Progress is possible, but transformation is a choice. Because, just because we're changing doesn't mean that we're making progress. Changes could take us backwards. So change is inevitable. Progress is optional. Progress is optional. That's what it is. Progress is optional. And transformation is a choice. And I want to transform. I want to transform me. I want to transform you. I want to transform the world. And, this has given me a great platform. Recovery has given me a great platform to do that. And the reason I became a recovery coach is because I recognized that, yes, addicts suffer, but their families and their friends and their employers and all the people that they associate with suffer on a greater level because there's a lot more of them. And so I became a recovery coach so that I can share my wisdom and my knowledge and my experience and my journey with family and business associates of the people who actually suffer from the addiction. I shared with Larissa yesterday that more people are affected by addiction than infected with addiction, if you will. And so let's see, do I have any other closing remark? Oh, so yes, I do. I also was asked to participate in contributing to a book. Okay. I always thought that I'd want to write a book. I've always been inspired. I also, and as unmentioned, I'm a poet, and I'll share one of my poems before we get off. But I participated in a book, and it was amazing. I was asked, and so I wrote a chapter for a book called Addicted to Bliss. And I used a bunch of acronyms in that book. And then most recently, I'm writing a book currently called Acronyms, which is the ability to use acronyms to take action in your life to go further, faster. And it's really, truly another blessing that I've had. I'm actually, so many people, will claim, yeah, I'm going to write a book someday. That's one day that I know of the week it doesn't exist. I would love to. Some of those acronyms. I would love to share some of those with you. I couldn't see the chat and I can't really read it now because I've misplaced my glasses. And that's something else. Somebody posted my poem in there. That's cool. There you go. That's awesome. So anyway, thank you. That must have been home. Thank you. So, here's a poem I didn't share. Okay. And this was a gift that God gave me as another map so that I could navigate my way through my journey. And this is it. Ready? Are you ready? Can I do this? Okay. All right. There's a sweet, soft touch that comes from up above. When we open up our hearts and allow in His love, we can become the people we desire so much to be, because through His love, we can be set free. He places no demands on us, only asks that we have faith. He's always there for us, though sometimes we must wait. He wants to care for us, to express how much He loves. He's always fair with us in all that He does. He wants so much for us all to want Him in our lives, to make us happy, joyous, and free, to teach us and make us wise. So when you're feeling all alone and no one seems to care, remember this and never forget that God always loves you. And so I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that my message resonated with someone. And I truly believe that anybody, if I can get this, anybody can. And so truly, the journey of recovery is definitely a way up and a way out, and it has so many opportunities that can be opened up for you, as long as we continue to put one foot in front of the other and never give up. That's what I got.
So, what advice would you give mothers who are struggling with their own addiction and are supporting a loved one through theirs? Well, the mothers specifically.
Okay, so mothers, um, like I said, like I mentioned, the one person I tortured probably more than myself was my mother. Um, and in my early journey, I mean, I had less than 30 days clean, and my mother was um, on her deathbed. And so my sister and I drove to Florida, and we went to see her. I was living in Maryland at the time, and um, she, she, so I said to God, because God is my buddy. I said, God, I said, what? I want to stay on this new journey. I want to stay on this new path. I said, but if my mom dies, I said, I can't guarantee I'll do that. I said, so you got to do something. And so he did. And he gave me another 30 plus years with my mother. And I was able to hear her say these words, that I'm proud of you. You know, I got to make my mother proud. And so, let's oh, another thing, here's for mothers. I'm not a mother, but I am a father. And so let's make our kids proud. Let's make our kids proud of who we are. And so, choose life and choose our kids. I have a daughter who's 20 years old, and she's never had to see me use and live in my distorted, dysfunctional, delusional mindset. And she is she is an abundant blessing. I am one of the greatest gifts I've been given, and she's the reason I do most things in life besides all of the other beautiful people that I've come into contact with. Did I answer the question, I hope?
Yes.
Okay, good.
And then, are there any specific resources, program, or strategies that you would find particularly helpful in dealing with addiction?
Yes, there are. So as I mentioned in my intake, I guess is what it would be called. I've read hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of books. Right? I used to say thousands and thousands and thousands of books, but I know that there's no way I've read thousands. I don't think I've read 1,000 books. It might be getting close to 1,000 because I read about 3 books at a time in a week. But when I first got here, I couldn't. Okay, so my sponsor sent me home. He said, "Can you read?" I'm like, "Of course I can read." And he says, "Can you comprehend what you read?" And I'm like, "Of course. Why would I read?" So I went home and I read the first paragraph of the chapter he gave me, and then I went back and read the first paragraph of the chapter he gave me, and then I went back and I read the first paragraph of the chapter he gave me because I couldn't comprehend anything. But today I've read hundreds and hundreds of books, and so I would suggest books. I would suggest meetings. I would suggest seminars. And I'm not promoting him, but and you know what I had the blessing of recently? Okay, I'm sure that everybody has heard of a book series called Chicken Soup for the Soul. Everybody heard that? Yes, show of hands. So I got to have dinner with Mark Victor Hansen and his beautiful wife the other night, which was wow. I mean, wow, right? So that was amazing. And there's not a bazillion. There's many books that you can find on personal development, growth, helping other people. And the guy right there, Tony Robbins, he's a great resource as well.
Thank you very much. And lastly, what message would you like to share with mothers who feel isolated or hopeless in their battle against addiction? This is a big one because I know that it can get isolated or lonely or hopeless. So
Okay. I, I, what can I share with mothers who feel isolated and hopeless in their addiction? All right. So I'm not going to be as eloquent as I was in what I typed out. Okay. But this is what I would share. Okay. Um, I would share this in acronym. Okay. Hope, to hang on because pain ends. Okay. HOPE, hang on, pain ends. And which will allow you to help other people every day. All right. And it will open up in the opportunity for you to develop a faith, which is finding answers in the heart. And that's where they all are. Tony Robbins, I was in Tony Robbins' event back in November and sitting there, and he was talking about how you have to bring the information from your head down to your heart, because the heart really, and so I'm sitting there and I got a download of find answers in the heart. Find answers in the heart. That's where they are. The answers are in our heart. And to know that you're not alone. You're not alone. I mean, there are, I just attended an event with 22,000 people, all recovering people. 22,000 people. It was amazing. And they were from all over the world. And truly, there's great resources out there. There's so much opportunity to you don't have to live like that. You don't have to suffer. You don't have to be in the pain. Truly, you don't. You really don't. There's a different way. There's a better way. There's it's not the end of the world. And I'd love to share this with, okay. You're not, if you've ever thought that because you continue to use and you have a child, how can you do this to your child? I'm such a bad parent. Okay. It's not true. It's not true. We're powerless over our addiction. Powerless. And since our real dilemma is not the addiction, but our lack of power. So we need to find a power greater than ourselves. And I thought it was out there, but I found out that the power is within me. I just needed to tap into it. And guess where it is? It's right here. Boom, 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 boom. It's in my heart. That's where my power is. Okay. And truly, you too can have a better life. Truly. Yes.
well, thank you very much. Yes, that is very true. And I registered all that you said. That your talk this particular talk is very touching for me, at least, because it resonates. It relates. It's reflects on my feelings as well, because we go through our everydays, and there are struggles and the up and downs, all the roller coasters, right? And then mixed feelings, isolation, loneliness. So when you talk about these points, it's I do relate. So thank you.
My pleasure.
And now we have some questions in the chat. So I'm gonna go down the chat here and ask you some questions, because it's from our attendees. So Larissa here, she practices holistic health in our group. And she wants to take a moment to acknowledge you for not only overcoming the immense challenges of addiction. Um, in quote, I understand that your mother played a crucial role in your recovery, especially during your overdose. What advice would you give to other parents trying to support their children through similar struggles?
Thank you for asking. My mother tried everything. I mean, she truly did. She was a saint. Um, and in the end, she honestly, in the program of, there's a program, I know everybody knows that there's a program called Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous. There's every anonymous group out there now for every addiction, because people get their nose out of joint and they go and start their own group. But anyway, the so my mother, what she did was she just, she had to surrender. And she threw her hands up and said to God, she said, God, just please show him, meaning me, his need for you in his life. And that set her free. It set her free because she had a strong faith. It set her free from the sleepless nights. It set her free from waiting by the phone or cringing every time the phone rang. She just gave me to God and let God show me my need for him in my life, which he did. And we're like this now, like that. Yeah. I hope I answered the question. I think I did.
Yes. And then for Eva, she has a comment to make, and I like this comment because it's also resonate with your story. I asked God to give me a map, a blueprint, some kind of extra help on my journey, and this is what He gave me. You are so a special one, of a kind, a living miracle. Give yourself time to work on you and you alone, because until you do so, this isn't this your poem?
That's another poem.
Well,
Okay, so that was truly, that was my map. That God knew that I was a special case. Okay, I was a head case. Okay, I was so okay. So I believe that people suffer from, people that have addiction suffer from a DDDTP. Okay, which is a distorted, dysfunctional, delusional thought process. Okay. Now it's at different levels for everybody. All right. But I was the worst of the worst. And, so God, I'm sitting there one day and I'm like, I need a map. I need some kind of guidance. I need you to hold me by the hand. And so I sat down with a pen and a piece of paper, and this is what I wrote. Okay. You were reading it and you were doing good.
So I would like to read this poem. I would like to read it out loud.
You are so special, one of a kind, a living miracle. Oh, do I not do that now or do it now?
Oh no, please do it now.
Okay.
Please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So you are so special, one of a kind, a living miracle. Give yourself time to work on you and you alone, because until you do, you'll never be shown. What a great miracle you can be, living life and living free. So let yourself grow, because unless you do, you'll never know what's in store for you. I have a plan, one that's so great, but until you let me in, you'll never escape. The bondage of self, the hell that you've made. So allow me to do what I have deemed, so you might enjoy life beyond your wildest dreams. And I'm like, and so after I just grabbed a pen and a piece of paper. I didn't know that was what was happening, that God was talking to me. Okay. I just was writing, and I'm like, where are you? Okay. Because it was like he wrote those words to me. Okay. But he didn't write them to me. He wrote them for you. Okay. He wrote them through me for you. And it's for everybody. I mean, truly. I mean, how many of us try to fix everybody else in our life? Okay. And if they would just do what we say, okay, their lives would be magical. Okay. And everything would be perfect. Okay. Well, that's not the way it works, you know. And so he told me, just stop worrying about fixing everybody else. Take care of yourself. Let me in. Let me work my magic, and you'll have a life beyond your wildest dreams. And life truly, I mean, it's been a roller coaster, no question. It's been up, down, sideways, up, inside out, but it's been a magical journey. Anyway, thank you.
And Eva asked, what were the top two things that kept you away from addiction? Did you develop a routine?
Okay, yes, I developed a routine. I would wake up. I would hit my knees, pray to God, you know, ask for help, and then I would go. I mean, honestly, what I did was I would go to meetings. Okay, you know, it was all I had at that point was to go to meetings, and to be around like-minded people would get me like-minded results, right? I mean, if I want what they have, I have to do what they do, you know, and that's what they did. So, yes, thank you, Eva. Eva, ooh, God, I almost have to give her a Mercedes. Yes. Come back to our okay. So yes, I developed a routine, and I just continued to do the same thing day after day after day, which is a routine, right? And you know, lo and behold, even though I felt like I wasn't making progress, and some days I wasn't making progress, some days I would go backwards. I would go, you know, but knowing that the obstacles or the challenges or the difficulties that I faced, they weren't roadblocks. They were actually stepping stones. You know, stepping stones to take me further in my journey. You know, and obstacles became opportunities, and you know the challenges, you know, were overcome. And you know, looking back, okay, so if I was a baseball player. Okay, I'm not, but if I was, or if we were, okay, if any of us were baseball players, the best baseball player in the world, that's about a 350, let's say 350. So he strikes out 6.5 times out of 10. All right. Now, I, as many of you, have overcome every obstacle, challenge, hurdle, difficulty in our lives up till this point, correct? Okay, and the reason we know that is because we're here, not back there, right? We're here today. So if we were baseball players, we'd be swinging at 1,001, hitting every ball that came to us, batting 1,000 at overcoming our obstacles and challenges and difficulties and hurdles. And, you know, what a blessing. What a blessing. You know, God doesn't make junk, and he keeps us on the path until we figure it out, until we awaken to what we need, the path that we're supposed to be on.
And then thank you. And then one last question. Larissa said, I want to take a moment to acknowledge you for not only overcoming the immense challenges of addiction. I understand that your mother played a crucial role in your recovery. I think we already went through this question. So whatever. Okay. Then so we went through that question already about mothers supporting their children with addiction. And with that said, Larissa also said, we are deeply grateful for your vulnerability, wisdom, and the impact you are making. Thank you for being a beacon of hope for many, and for showing us that the power to change is truly within each of us and within reach.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, my pleasure.
And with that said, I hope that you will come back and work with us more. Maybe you can do a webinar, like a presentation, teach us more about your experience, your journey. We are opening up the webinar series, so we would love to reach back out and bring you back in. You can present for us.
Thank you.
And please come to our book club as well as speaker events.
Absolutely. It'd be my pleasure to come back and share in any time. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Larissa. Thank you, Riva.
Any other last minute question or comments? Well, thank you everybody for being here, and thank you especially to Mr. Todd for your time spending the Saturday morning with us.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Thank you.
And as you go to your life, may the Lord be with you at every step of the way. Okay.
Amen. Yes, sir.